Hi, everybody. Sorry, we are a couple minutes late. We had a little technical difficulty. If you are with us, if you again will just say hi and tell me you can hear me, that will make me feel better and we can get started. I forgot to put a reminder out that we were going to, I usually try to about 45 minutes, put a reminder out to let people know we're just about ready to begin. So we'll give everyone just a few seconds to join us. Okay, and again, if somebody out there will let me know they can hear me, that would be fantastic. I see a couple people have joined us. If you can hear me, just say hello and let me know, please. You won't let the kitten in. We have a kitten stuck in another room. It's crying. Come on in. Come on. I can hear you. Yay! And the kitten. Awesome. I see Dustin. Hi, Casey. Hi, Dustin. All right. So we will go ahead and get started. All right. So first, I want to start with some pretty awesome news. In the past week, we have received 3 different endorsements. And so I just wanted to share that with you. Do we have another kitten who's lost? We're going to get an unhappy kitten settled real fast. Okay, well, we're gonna let them be. Okay, all right. So anyway, we like I said, in the last week received 3 different endorsements, and so I mentioned the first endorsement at the very end of our last Straight Talk with Stacy, and we were endorsed by KEPAC, which is the political organization that's associated with KEA, Kentucky Education Association. Well, a few days after that, I received a letter in the mail, and I was also endorsed by, get my correct thing here, Better Schools Kentucky. And Better Schools Kentucky is the political organization that is associated with Jefferson County Teacher Association. So and so we were very excited to also be endorsed by BSK. And then today, right before this meeting, I got a letter in the mail, and we have been endorsed by United Steelworkers, the USW in District 8. And so I was very excited to get that endorsement, and I did just want to share a tiny bit of that letter. It says the USV strives to improve the working conditions and wages for not only our members, but all workers. Tens of thousands of members, retirees, and family members rely on the commitment, vision, and dedication of a representative who will strive to protect Kentucky's working families. This endorsement is based on your strong support and your commitment to work on the issues that impact our members. And so, very excited about that endorsement. So, along with endorsements, well, one more thing I wanted to mention was that in a primary, it's really hard to get an endorsement, because generally, if it's a contested primary, where most organizations are going to wait until the end of that primary to see who wins before they put their endorsements out there. So for me to get those 3 big endorsements last week, that was very much very powerful, and I was very honored to get those. But along with endorsements came some fairly sizable donations. And so I just want to talk about what we are able to do because of those donations. So we ended up with $4,000 through our endorsements. And so what we're able to do is just do everything we've been doing, just bigger and better. And so that's very exciting on this last 2-week push before, it's really a little bit less than 2 weeks before the primary. So today I was able to record an ad with WMMG that's going to start airing on Monday, and will be airing several times a day all the way up until the primary. I was also able to take the ads that we've been putting in the Meade County Messenger and to be able to increase the size and to add color, just so that those pop out and more people are likely to see those. We were also able to, which we didn't think we had enough money to do, but we did with those new endorsements and donations, be able to put a similar ad in the News Enterprise. And we chose to do it on the Sunday issues because they have 10,000 people that get the Sunday paper opposed to 8,000 that get the daily paper. So we're going to be able to put 2 sizable ads in the News Enterprise. We also were able to use that money to buy more large campaign signs to post throughout the district. So we have 7, I believe now, large 8-foot by 4-foot signs posted throughout the district, and we have 4 more that are getting printed that we're going to be able to display at the beginning of next week. And then finally we ordered, not a huge amount, but we ordered some small yard signs because we had ran out, and there were several people who were still contacting me. We still have signs left, so if you want a yard sign, just again, you can comment on this video, you can comment on my post, send a message through Messenger, but if you give me your address, I will deliver that straight to your house. So those are all the exciting things that we were able to do since we got this unexpected influx of money. So before we start with our main topic today, I'm going to first introduce to you one of my friends and member of my team, my campaign team, and her name is Allison Dutez, and she is the librarian at Brandenburg Primary School. She is also one of the only people that I know in Meade County who is currently teaching and has been teaching longer than me. So that's pretty impressive. I met Allison 2 years ago when we were teachers were going through this pension crisis in Frankfort, and she was one of the members, one of the teachers that we came together and formed Meade County Schools United, trying to be able to organize ourselves so that we could get our voices heard and also keep our community informed on what was going on in Frankfort. And then also Allison is the treasurer for Meade County Education Association. So we serve together and that leadership team together. So I'm going to go ahead and give the camera away to Allison.
Hello, everyone. I'm also the kitten wrangler today, too, so I have multiple roles. So I'm going to kind of do a quick run through again of different ways that you can vote in the primary. So, of course, one of them is to apply for an absentee ballot, and time is getting short on that. The deadline is the 15th, so that's basically 4 days away. And so you can either go to govoteky.com, or you can call the county clerk's office. From what I understand, it's a little easier and quicker if you just go through the website. So, and then of course you'll receive your absentee ballot at your home, and then you'll of course fill it out. So anyway, and if when you get your ballot, if you choose to do it this way, you will fill out, mark your ballot. And then the main thing is, and it was a little confusing for me too, as far as how to sign and where to sign. Basically, you're going to sign here above the highlighted area, sign your name there. You do not need witnesses. So unless you are putting your mark. So basically that means all of us are just going to be signing our names there. And then don't forget also that you need to sign up here too at the top. Whoops, let me get it in the right spot. Sign up there too at the top of your envelope. So, and then put the darker envelope, seal it, put it inside of the lighter colored envelope, and then you can drop it in the mail. But from what I understand, they're also going to have a drop box at the courthouse where you can actually drop it off there too. So let's see what else. And if you are mailing your ballot back in, it has to be postmarked by election day. which would be, of course, June 23rd. Let's see, is that?
So what if they don't want absentee ballots?
Oh, yes. If you choose to vote in person, you can actually make an appointment, call the county clerk's office, make an appointment, and actually go there and vote in person before the actual election day. Or, of course, you can choose to vote on election day in person. And if you're going to do that, the only polling place in Meade County is going to be at the courthouse, or not, I'm sorry, no, at Meade County High School. Sorry about that. Meade County High School will be the polling place for the whole county. And I'm not sure, do you know anything about Radcliffe or?
I'll post that later. I'm not
Okay,
sure.
I'm
We
not
have
sure
one
about that
polling
either.
place.
Sorry. Let's see. Anyway, so and I'll do my quick endorsement too for Stacy. It is kind of funny that we've taught in Meade County this long, both of us together, and yet we did not know each other until like 2 years ago. Um, I just think that's strange that we just our paths did not cross, I guess. Anyway, and I'm just so blessed to be her friend, and she's just such a wonderful person, and she is a great leader. I know she maybe didn't set out to become the leader of Meade County Schools United, but she is just she has all the qualities that make a fantastic leader, which to me would make a great representative for our people. She listens well. She is very smart, and she has great ideas. But she also is a wonderful listener and open to listening to other people. A lot of people are great leaders, but they don't always listen. And I think Stacy has that quality. So anyway, so there's my endorsement.
All right. Thank you very much, Allison. And I have thoroughly enjoyed becoming friends with Allison and working with her over the past 2 years. And I wish our paths could have crossed earlier than it did. So we are going to, I just felt like this was important, just with everything that's going on in our nation, across the world, that we needed to talk a little bit about inequality and equities and structural inequalities and what does that mean to our community. And so the topic tonight was entitled Structural Inequalities in Our Community Through the Eyes of an Educator. And so I just want to share with you from an educator's point of view that what do these inequalities look like, what causes these structural inequalities that people are speaking about. And I just happen to teach, in addition to teaching mathematics, I teach a class called Learning Communities, which is the first class in the pathway for students who want to be educators. And it is just I'm so passionate about this class and I love teaching it. And one of our topics that our students get most excited about, I mean, it is when we start talking about inequities and inequalities in education, because it just opens the doors up to them as something that they were never aware of as a student just going through school. And so in education, there really are 4 things that really can cause students to get a different quality of education and to close down or open up opportunities. And so we talk about the 4 main factors that lead to inequities for students. And they are, number 1, ability. And so we're talking about students that it can be on either spectrum, students who have learning disabilities or students who are extremely gifted. And so as educators, we have worked very much to reduce those inequalities. And that was spurred from the federal legislation IDEA, which said that every student, no matter what their ability level, deserved a quality education, and that we couldn't give them the exact same education. We had to meet them where they were and give them the supports that they needed so everybody could succeed. The next thing, other than ability, is gender. And so and this happened when I was in just about getting ready to go to middle school, Title IX was passed, which said that boys and girls should get the exact same opportunities. And that's in the classroom, but it's also extracurricular. So that's where we got we didn't just have boys basketball, we had girls basketball. And if it was a sport that there wasn't a boys and girls version, or it wasn't a need for for it or a desire. They might have something just close to it. So girls had cheerleading, and I think that that's how we had boys, or no, girls had volleyball and boys had wrestling, or but they tried their very best to make sure, regardless of gender, that students had equal opportunities, because so much is learned outside of the classroom from participating in those extracurricular activities. And then the third thing that can cause in education inequalities is race. And so we're all aware of the civil rights movement, and how that pertained to education, and how we worked to desegregate our schools and to make sure that students of color were able to get the same quality education, the same opportunities as white students. And that also in Louisville played out in busing and things like that. And so that's still something today. I was listening to the radio talking about how Louisville is coming up with a plan that the busing, one of the problems with the busing is just that people are on the buses for too long, and students are having to go to school in communities where they don't live, and that's not where their friends are. And so they're trying to come up with a new program where kids are able to not be bused as much and be able to attend schools in their communities, but for those schools to be able to offer the same quality education instead of having to bus kids from the West End to the East End. And so all of those things are things that are not new to educators, and that we have been championing equality for a very long time. And then the final factor that can cause inequity in education is economic status. And that's what I really wanted to focus on today, is that's one that we have not solved yet. And that's one that is why teachers have been protesting and raising alarm about how our schools are funded, and that it's not equal across our state. And so I hate to say that most problems come down to money, but that is true. And funding is a huge issue when it comes to education. So I'm going to try not to get too technical here, because again, this is something I'm super passionate about. But when we talk about education funding, we get funding for education from three different sources. The first is the state level, and the state provides anywhere from 45% of funding for public education. And that's where you hear words like the SEEK formula. That's how much is set aside per student from the state and given towards education. Then another 40 to 45% come from the local level. And the main way that we raise money locally for public schools is through property taxes. And then finally, the last 15-20% comes from federal level, and the biggest part of that will go to special education services, because IDEA, which ensures that any student with a learning disability receives specialized services, that is a federal law. And so a lot of that money from the federal level goes to support those programs. And so where the problem lies is, in the last 10 years in Kentucky, the state has continually cut their state funding. And so our students haven't changed, their needs haven't changed, transportation hasn't changed, all the things we need to make a school run, those have not changed. But as the state lowers how much money they give per student, that places the burden to make the difference up at the local level. And so the local level, as I told you, comes from property taxes. And so what we have found out is, those poorer districts, the poorer school districts, are not going to pull in as much property tax as the wealthier school districts. And so what that causes then is for them to have, in our poorer districts, less money to pay their teachers, to buy textbooks, to do all the things that we know, provide all the services that we know that our students need to succeed. And so when we boil all of this down, in 1990, the state of Kentucky was actually sued, and this is where CARA came from, was sued because there was such a gap in the way that we funded our schools. And there was, I want to make sure I get this right, approximately a $3,000 difference per student spent on students in the poorest communities compared to the wealthiest communities. And so the state was sued. CARA came along, our Reform Act, and we worked years to bring down that gap. And that gap over the years came down to about $1,000. But then, as we started cutting education and cutting education, that gap began to expand again. And unfortunately, we are almost back to pre-CARA numbers, and we are to about $2,700, and that was in 2008. 18 was the gap between what is spent on students in the poorest communities for education to the wealthiest communities. So why am I talking about all of this? My purpose tonight is twofold. Number one, I want you to know that I understand funding for schools, and we know that education is the great equalizer. And the Constitution of Kentucky says that every single student deserves a free, quality public education. And so we have to address how our schools are funded, and we have to make sure that we go back and we start reversing the trend that we're on right now, so that every student, I don't care what zip code they live in, I don't care what part of the state, and especially in District 27, that every student has a quality free public education and has the resources, and that our school districts have the money they need to provide the opportunities that our students need, so that they can go out there and be successful in this economy once they graduate. But secondly, the reason I wanted to talk about it is that we are going to have to expand the way this conversation about equity and inequality out of our school systems and into all the other parts of government and the other parts of our society. And we need to start having some very honest conversations. And we want to make sure that we work together at the local level, the district, the state level, to make sure that every person in Kentucky, and especially every constituent in District 27, that they feel valued, and that they feel like that their elected officials are going to listen to them, and that their voices will be heard, and that everyone feels that they're getting treated fairly and have the same opportunities to make sure that they can succeed and be able to prosper. And so again, I feel like educators, this is a topic we are very familiar with, and now it's just time that we take that same fairness and that same desire out into our communities. And that's going to be in all areas. It's going to be in our criminal justice, it's going to be in our public services, it's going to be everywhere, and it's going to look different in every community. And so in District 27, what we do and the problems that we try to solve are going to look different than it's going to look in another district. But if we commit to working together and having honest civil conversations, there's nothing that we can't accomplish together. So that is my spill. That is just kind of the way that I'm able to take my experiences and just kind of connect them to what we're seeing going on in the larger, community. So I'm going to look here and see if there's any questions from anyone. Let's see. I'm going to remember to scroll. Let's see. I don't see any questions. So, Miss Allison, is there anything that maybe I didn't touch on that would be interesting?
About? Well, maybe since we probably money is going to be a little tight this next budget year, upcoming budget year, ideas on revenue or what.
Okay. Yeah. So Allison said, funding's an issue, but we also know that we're going to be strapped for cash most likely when we look at this next budget. What the General Assembly did this year, because it was a budget year, and normally they will write a budget for a 2-year period, but because we were right in the middle of the pandemic, they decided to write a 1-year budget. And so that makes whoever becomes the next representative, that makes it that much more important that we have the right people, because it shouldn't be a budget year, but it's actually going to be a budget year. And we're going to have to be looking at after the pandemic, once we look and see where everything falls, how much money do we have, and then also how are we going to spend it. And so the one thing that I would just say is we have to look at revenue. We can no longer say that we're not going to raise any revenue and we're just going to cut our way out of this. And so I think I've mentioned this before. I would definitely say that we need to put everything on the table. We need to be creative. We need to think out of the box, and we need to put things that we know, especially like casino gambling, sports gambling, that people are already spending their money on. It's just going out of our state, that we need to go ahead and start benefiting from that. And again, medicinal marijuana and just anything that we can think of that is going to generate money for our state to help us to recover from the pandemic more quickly. And I'm going to throw one thing in, since there's not a lot of questions, because I think this is important. And I wanted to share this because of people may not have young children in public education, but I wanted to do one more fact that you may not be aware of that will drive home how important funding is at the state level. And I want to talk about higher education. In higher education, over the years, with all of these state cuts, higher education has really been hit hard. And I'm looking here because I want to get the numbers, the time right. In 1999, our state was responsible for 70% of the cost of a college education. So they gave money to the universities and they covered 70%. And that left our students and their families to cover the last 30%. So from 1999 until 2017, so in less than 20 years, that funding has literally reversed. And so if you've ever wondered why college is so expensive, it's because now the state only foots 30% of the expenses for a college education, and students and their families have to cover 70%. And what is so concerning about that is that again has caused this huge inequity in education, because we have literally taken middle class families and we have priced them out of college. They can't afford it because they make too much money to get financial aid and support, and so it's too much. And so a lot of students unfortunately choose not to get a college education or get any additional training after high school because they just can't afford it. And so that again is just another reason why the decisions made at the state level when it comes to education is so important, to make sure that all of our Kentuckians get a quality education and then also are able to pursue a higher education in order to get those better paying jobs. So I'm going to have one more chance here for any questions. It does not look like we have any. So thank you so very much for joining us tonight. And I believe we only have one more straight talk with Stacy. I can't believe it. I think there's only one more until the primary on June the 23rd. So if you haven't voted, go ahead and vote. Go ahead and get that out of the way. And we will see you next Thursday. Talk to you guys later.